let's do it. Let's talk about the path to victory here, Alex.
Do it.
Let's start with the offensive side path to victory. I think it 100% begins with Dalvin Cook. I know
Yep.
it's not a hot take, but we built up the entire Saints game with how healthy is Dalvin? Can he shred through tackles? And 65 of his 94 yards were after contact in that game. And he just battled and grinded. And sometimes they blew him up, and sometimes he blew them up, as it was in playoff fashion. And I feel like the shot down the field to Thielen was all set up by just the grinding out of Dalvin Cook. And it's going to have to happen again.
Yeah, for sure. You have to get this team to play a base defense, a nickel defense. I mean, dude, they can be tough. And not to say that they can't be had there, too, because Akilo Witherspoon has kind of been a little up and down, and I'm not sure why Mosley's not starting, but I think they're just like, hey, listen, all year this is what we've done. We're just going to stick with it. And we've said this before, too. It is so easy to get up here and be like, well, we're going to play some big boy football. Dude, that is so easy to say. Are you really going to do it? Like when Dalvin hits your star player, and he's like, man, I'm not so sure this Peck is prepared for this. Is the rest of your defense going to crumble too? Like, there's going to be so many question marks. And then after that, how patient are the Vikings? Because at times, both of these coaches have shown, like, listen, we're going to stick to our game plan. No matter what happens, no matter how far we get down. Now, there are times like in Denver where it's like, listen, we're too far down. We have to do something else. We have to just continue to move Kirk. We got to speed it up. But if you're playing a really close game, like who's going to be the one guy that's like, maybe we should veer off the path? Maybe we should go to plan B a little earlier instead of saying, hey, listen, this is the type of football we've played all year. We're going to see if they can hold up for 4 quarters, 60 minutes, because it is hard to follow a run game for that entire length of time. Like the 3 yards become 4, 4 become 5. And next thing you know, it's 15 and 20 and the big runs because your defensive line isn't being gap sound or they're getting out of position or they're just beat up from getting 30 runs at them the whole game. So you stick to the game plan if you're the Minnesota Vikings.
And Alexander Hollins might end up being big in this one too.
Dude,
and
everybody's big.
Something that we haven't really talked about a lot because there's just so many good players on the offensive side is the role of Hollins to be able to come in from time to time as fresh legs, which I feel like is very, very difficult for opposing defenses when you have someone who runs over people. That Latavius Murray benefited from this, and Alexander Hollins averaged the same yards per carry with less talent than Dalvin Cook because he could just run over people. And I think about the Dallas game, the 10 runs in a row, and they score a touchdown. There needs to be a drive like that in every win that the Vikings have, where it's just physical dominance. They run over people. You don't turn the ball over. You keep the clock moving. You protect the ball. You don't give it back to their offense. That's absolutely required for this Vikings team. And also the other thing, Alex, is when I watched the tape back, I was really wowed. I mean, talk about a kitchen sink game for Rick Dennison, the run game coordinator. Everything was thrown out there. You had jet motions where the receiver comes across and it looks like he might take a sweep. And I am not a fan of Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen in the jet sweep. I just don't think that they're great open field runners. They're not Tyreek Hill.
Right.
They're not,
Twitch.
Anybody who's going to just dodge a bunch of tackles and get 50 yards. They're not Cordell Patterson. But if you watch how the linebackers react or the safeties react, whoops, I got to pay attention to that. Now I have to start moving out of the space. Now I have to get a man out of the box. When we had an 8-man box, now we have a 7 because we moved with that wide receiver. And Kevin Stefanski, Gary Kubiak, Rick Dennison, it will be another throw the kitchen sink with the offensive game planning in the run. I was just so impressed by that, and I thought it was a huge factor.
Agreed. And a lot of that is smoke and mirrors, but some of it too is also like, all right, what defense are they really? That's so much of the schematics of this game that people don't know is every time you're doing a motion, I'd say 85% of the time there's a reason you're doing it, and 15% of the time it's what is the defense going to do? Like, hey, listen, if we do this later, or if we get in this personnel, or if we get in this formation, what are they going to do against us? Well, let's move somebody and see who's really going. If somebody runs all the way with them, they're in man. If somebody just trickles along, and another guy trickles along, and another guy, well, now they're in zone. And then sometimes you see the kills. I mean, these motions and these shifts and these, they start to play a role when you start running them in the play. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, guys are going every which way. And linebackers, we used to do these hides a lot in the zone because it would freeze a linebacker. And he would be running like because he always keys the guards. The linebackers are always taught you key the guards because they're the most uncovered. So you see where they go. So if they all start going in a zone to the right, it's zone right. But if you see a hide route coming across your face, your natural reaction is to stop and look and be like, where's he going and why is he going there? Is this a boot? Is this a play action? Oh, it's really a zone, and now all of a sudden the guard has just climbed up on me, and I haven't realized it because I'm looking at somebody else. You Those are just the best plays because then you get 5 guys on 5 guys, and you let Dalvin go. Where do I want to go? Right there, that's where I want to go. And it's simple. It's easy for an offense. It shows you so many tells of a defense, and it opens up so many lanes that people don't realize.
All right, as we continue path to victory, let's take a second here with an update on the 49ers injury situation. D Ford is going to be questionable for the game. That is huge to me if they can rotate him in, because when he's healthy, he's a monster, and they've been using Armstead at defensive tackle. That would be over Brian O'Neill. But if you can mix guys in and start to wear down O'Neill throughout the game, that could be tough. Also, Quan Alexander will be activated from IR. So that's another big one. He's a very, very good player, great athleticism, the type of guy who can cover in the flat when you get Dalvin Cook out there. So he will be a big factor next to Fred Warner in this game. All right, now you give me one. So I gave you my offensive path to victory. You give me your Vikings offense path to victory.
I have no idea what to ask you right now. Like, your Vikings path to victory would be, you want to know something that the Vikings need to do, or I'm supposed to ask you something?
You just throw out there what you think they need to do that isn't what I just said.
I mean, I would say they need to be able to do something other than 3-step drops. How do you feel about that? I mean, you can't just do quick game the whole day. How are you going to change it up? Like, if, say, D Ford does play, what's going to be your answer for this offensive line to stop this 49ers defensive line?
I mean, play actions. It has to be that, right? I mean, these guys cannot stand up and keep Kirk straight up in the pocket with straight rushes. There's just no way. And Bosa is way too dominant. The other guys are good too. Buckner clobbered them the first time that they played at US Bank Stadium in 2018. And then he's not even the third most talented guy up there at this point.
Which is crazy right now. But I think they focus on him a lot.
Yeah, so if you have to have straight dropbacks, I mean, that's where, Cousins against New Orleans had a few straight dropbacks because they were playing two deep safeties where it was really excellent. I mean, drop back on time, step the foot throw, and hitting, just an example, Adam Thielen on third down twice because they had called the timeout and no one heard it. But then the second time, just straight drop back, no play action. But if you get into that too much, then we're talking about this is going to look like Kansas City a little bit. This is going to look like Chicago a little bit, where the opportunities become very limited if you can't run play action.
Right. And, the one thing I will say about this, though, and people might not agree with me, but you don't see Jimmy phased a lot, right? Like, he always just looks like he has this really calm demeanor about it. But when he does get phased, man, it is like glaring. Kirk, as of lately, he's been taking some hits. Like, if you saw that pass that he threw to Thielen, he was on the ground as he was watching Thielen catch it. He's been getting tougher in the pocket. Like, I feel like he's more confident to step in there. I'm going to take this hit, but you know what, dude? I'm going to put everything I got into it.
Yep.
I think that sometimes when you look at these games, and yeah, the 49ers they're at home, they got this momentum. To me, a negative is they're coming off a week off. Like, dude, when you're a team that's been tested and people are talking about the Vikings, can they hold up 2 weeks in a row? You have a better chance with momentum behind you than a team that's been resting, like sitting in idle, like, okay, we're waiting. This team's just kind of proved the world wrong. And not only that, they're led by a guy who knows how to bring them back to earth very quickly. Like, team meetings were quick to be like, we are all humbled now. Got it. So you talk about a team that's going to go out there, a quarterback that knows he's probably going to get hit, but probably will do better when he does get hit than the opposing quarterback. That, to me, also seems like a really good chance for this team to say, hey, listen, at times we're going to take our shots. Yes, we know they're going to get exotic, or they're going to bring guys, they're going to twist them. I think we get at the front four. But Kirk, if you can stay in there and hold up for maybe half a tick, dude, the juice is worth the squeeze, my dude. It's true.
The numbers on no play action versus play action for Kirk Cousins are pretty remarkable. With play action, 129.2 quarterback rating, 14 touchdowns, 2 picks. And he averages almost 10 yards a pass when running play action. When not, just okay. Good numbers, 7.4 yards per attempt, 97 quarterback rating. But there's a huge jump in his play when he gets to play action. Now, but the point that you just brought up of Cousins and his leadership and showing the toughness and the resilience of last week was something that had been reasonably and fairly questioned throughout his career. And I'm not going to be upset with players or with the head coach who says, look, guys, there's a reason why everyone questioned. We didn't just pick Kirk at random, okay? There's a reason. But I don't blame them for that. that they want to say, oh, it was just media or whatever else. You got to do that to keep everybody believing in Kirk Cousins. But here's what I've seen this year many times when they get down. They win a game, they beat the Lions, everybody's happy. Oh, Kirk threw for 350 yards. Then by the first two drives against, say, Green Bay or Chicago or wherever it might be, they struggle a little bit and they go 3-and-out, and Kirk takes a bad sack or he overthrows the fullback, and everybody starts to look around like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. And you see on tape, you see guys throwing their hands up, you see them slumping their shoulders. And I don't know if that disappears because of what happened last week.
I think that we looked at last week and we kind of saw a little bit of that, and he kind of climbed out of it quickly. Like, listen, I don't want to go down that road. I'm going to go down this road instead. You're going to be tested in this game. At some point, this defense is going to be bearing down on you. I like that through this season, we've seen him get tougher. We've seen him put more on his shoulders. We've seen him be able to overcome a huge game in beating the Saints. But this team this week will do the same thing. They're tough. They're going to be prepared. They're going to be ready to punch you in the mouth. If you can come ready to play, ready to punch back, ready to go, I really do think that Kirk has taken a step in his own mind. And I think this team is really now like, listen, now we can go. Now we can take more steps. We are prepared for the number one team in the NFC. If there was a team right now that was prepared to do it, it would be the Minnesota Vikings. They're both playing complementary football, which is really nice, but it's physical complementary football.
All right, path to victory on the defensive side. I think it's just being ready for every single thing that Kyle Shanahan is going to throw at you. They've got playmakers. Emmanuel Sanders completely changes the ball game for them. They're a much more explosive offense when Emmanuel Sanders is in there. And then you have George Kittle and Juszczyk and these three running backs that come out of the backfield. It makes it very, very difficult with all the weapons that they have. But you have a lot of great players on the defensive side as well. I think it's just, you know that there's going to be stuff you're not ready for. How are you going to react?
Right. And I think, too, is the one thing I love about Zimmer's defense is that they're always disciplined. So you know they're always going to be in the right gaps. You know that they're always going to be on time. They know what's going on. They're well studied. They're well versed. You got to shut down Kittle. You have to play physical with him. You have to let him know from play one, listen, dude, if you think that you're going to come out here and run all willy-nilly in the middle of this field. I got Harrison over here who's going to crank you from the left. I got Anthony Barr. He's going to crank you from the right. I got Kendricks. He's going to smack you right in front. If you shut him down, don't even let him get all excitable. You watch this team start to be like, okay, well, who's the next man up? Who is the guy that's going to help us now? Because you haven't really had to see it, right? Like Kittle goes down in the games. There's really no one person that shows up. Like it's just a good team victory. All of a sudden he's back and they're electrified again. And they're like super excitable to watch and they're super fun again. And it's like, all right, well, it doesn't take much to see that this is the guy that they like to have out of the field. He's crazy. He likes to run block people. But you know what? This team, can you run block Danielle Hunter like you've been run blocking some of these outside linebackers? Because I'm going to be frank with you. Some of those outside linebackers were trash. This is Danielle Hunter. If you think you're just going to scoop block Danielle Hunter with you and McGlinchey, like, dude, I hate to tell you, but this is a different defense. And I'm not saying that they haven't been tested because they have. They've lost to the Ravens. They've beat the Saints in a tough game. They've lost to Seattle in overtime, but they also beat Seattle. They're going to come equipped, but stopping Kittle was going to be the number one thing for them.
Yeah, and now Kittle, though, is unlike anybody else they've faced. So let's look at the tight ends they've gone against. The guy from Oakland had a bunch of trash yards at the end of the game. We won't worry too much about that. But Noah Fant was very good and shut down by Jaron Kearse, but Jaron Kearse doesn't look like he's going to play in this game, right. So that's a different type of challenge. Kearse would be the one guy you would say he's got that hybrid fit where he could match up one-on-one with a tight end. Aside from that, though, people have cited the number of how well they've played against tight ends, but I want to know who all these great tight ends were. Travis Kelce did play with Kansas City, but Patrick Mahomes was not in that game. So it might be a little bit of smoke and mirrors there. What is it they do schematically with Zimmer to slow down George Kittle? Because I feel like it's sort of with Michael Thomas, where the guy's going to get some plays. They're going to dial up things for him. How do you limit him like they did with Michael Thomas?
I'm going to tell you one thing I don't want to see them do, because as an offensive lineman, number one, I used to love when people would do this, when defensive ends would chip the tight end. Number one, you've just ruined your entire pass rush because you've stopped yourself on purpose, went to go hit a tight end, and we've just crawled up on top of you. If I'm a defensive guy and I'm telling you as an offensive lineman, who cares if you chip that tight end or not? Like, You really think that little nudge is going to just knock him off balance? You've just made our life so much easier. And when you have a guy like Daniil and Everson on the edges that could go out and just wreak havoc and maybe even push the middle of the pocket, don't worry about chipping a Kittle. Let your guys go after the quarterback. You have a better chance of disrupting the quarterback than you do of disrupting the tight end.
Matthew Coller, Alex Boone here. Just a couple of minutes left before Alex is done for the week, and I feel like you're like over there sweating.
Dude,
like,
can we play tonight?
Like that guy in Airplane was just like pouring sweat right now, ready for this game. On the defensive side, I think that having so much to prepare for is going to make this very, very difficult. But in terms of path to victory, the guys who will ultimately determine this, aside from kickers, punt returners who commit stupid penalties on kickoffs, which I'm tired of,
Yes.
just don't return it. I mean, it's very simple. If they kick it off to you and it can go in the end zone, just take 25 yards because you're going to have to put a lot of effort out there to get to the 27, and it's probably going to get flagged. That's an aside. But I think it's these coaches. I think that this coach matchup is like, how can I put this? I mean, this would be if you had some old wily pitcher who's kind of a junk baller and throws breaking balls and still has it somehow, Greg Maddux when he's 38 years old or something like that, versus the younger guy who's that hot young coach coming into San Francisco. He didn't prove himself right away, but now is finally getting it together, and he's throwing flames. He's got all sorts of creativity out there, and he's got 97-mile-an-hour fastball that you're going against. I love this matchup. It's like Jack Morris against John Smoltz in this game with Mike Zimmer against Kyle Shanahan. And whoever handles the small things better, how they handle, the motions and the misdirections, but also the clock. Yeah. Anybody who follows me on Twitter sees my mind exploding a lot of times with how these guys handle the clock. And I think not talked about last week was thank you, Sean Payton, for mismanaging the clock and not giving your guy enough time to go down the field and score a touchdown. Instead, the Saints end up getting a field goal. So those are the small things where, do we trust Mike Zimmer with the clock, with the timeouts, with the challenges?
I would like to say you do because he is an old wily veteran. And I think that when you're looking at it, Kyle Shanahan is young and he's innovative. But more importantly, dude, look at Stefanski versus Saleh. Like two guys right now that are about to be head coaches, could be head coaches. Like how are they going to play against each other? Who's going to be the first of them to crack? I think that who's going to be the first guy to really get their team to rally after they get punched? Who's going to be the guy that can get everybody back after something bad happens? Who's going to be the guy that can get everybody together when everybody wants to fall apart and be like, dude, from either side, this is going to be a slugfest, a heavyweight knockout of the century. It's going to be fun because it's all these great coaches that are pitted against each other. And it's like, man, it's really going to be the team that makes the most errors that loses. Like the one error is going to catch them off guard and it's going to cost them the game because they're so disciplined on both sides of the ball and they're led by such great, innovative coaches that know how to fix problems. You look at this team here with Zimmer and the problems that he's had in the secondary and how he just went down into the Saints and dealt with that. That is incredible. And you turn around and you look at Kyle Shanahan, all the players on offense that he's lost all year, and he's got all these guys fill these roles and they still haven't really missed a beat. That's incredible. So you know that both coaches actually know how to coach a team. They know how to fill those spots with like, hey, listen, we got a problem. Let's do this. This is how you fix this. That's incredible. What coach can get their team to bounce back after the first mistake? That's going to be the winner.
You picking the Vikings for this one?
I'm picking the score to be 17-13. I don't know who's going to win it, and it's going to be incredible.
You need like a cop-out button or sounder, just like burp, 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 burp.
What do you think?
Pick someone.
It's going to be really the team that makes the least amount of errors and doesn't turn the ball over. That's what this game's going to be dictated on. And
I wanted to hear yours first.
I know. I want to hear yours first.
I think I'm picking San Francisco in a very close game.
17-13. I don't know. Hey, dude. And then all of a sudden, Thielen pops up with an injury, and it's like, we're going to be cautious and monitor this. What are we monitoring? You already put stitches in. You're good, right? We're good? We're good?
Maybe.
I know. What is going on?
My dog had something like this happen once. They had to stitch her up. She fell on ice, and she cracked her skin open. And, she had to take it easy for a few days. So that's my analysis of this Adam Thielen injury.
Why? The week of the slugfest?
Crazy.
We're like,
hey,
who runs into the number one receiver?